Welcome into another edition of the Talkin Solutions Podcast. In this episode, I am joined by the founder of TULA, Megan Trask. And Megan, how are you today? Thanks so much for taking the time to have a conversation with us.
Oh, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. And Megan, I'd just like to kind of get it going right off the bat a little bit so people know. Tell us a little bit about TULA, what it is, and the solution that it provides, and why it's so great for society on that front.
For sure. So TULA is, I call it like the life balance solution. It is a marketplace that connects busy moms and families with sort of that help at the touch of a button, whether that's with personal assistants or personal chefs. And really the root and the solution that we're solving for is the extreme amount of time that so many people, caregivers, partners spend on sort of the second shift responsibilities. So, the cooking, the cleaning, the lighting, the straighten up, the schedules for everybody. It's something that was near and dear to my heart and kind of why I started this, because I was experiencing the burden of all those second shift tasks after a long day at work and trying to balance caring for my family and my career at the same time. And so I looked for a solution like this that could kind of be a plug and play for myself in those needs within my household, and it just didn't exist. And I was certain that I was not the only mom or female or caregiver that was struggling with this type of finding the right balance between caring and career and family and all of those things. So I feel super passionately about providing a solution that allows people to find more time to prioritize with purpose, to kind of offload some of those requests that just take an extreme amount of time on a daily basis. A crazy stat is that women spend an additional 130 minutes per day on second shift type of requests, and men spend 53 minutes. So while there's a little disproportionate fact there, at the end of the day, what that equates to is a lot of time for partners and caregivers to be spending outside of their career and kind of work day, trying to manage the to-do lists that are plagued with these second shift, as I say it again, type of request. So we're really, really on fire for this idea of making it easy to ask for help, empowering people to ask for help so they don't feel kind of guilt and shame about not doing it all. Because the truth is we don't have to do it all. It's more important to do the things that matter the most to us. And that's really what we want to enable and to promote with this idea of TULA and bringing more balance to people's lives, which ironically TULA stands for balance in Sanskrit. So there's the reason behind our name as well.
Oh, the alignment's there. Awesome. Sure. And, Megan, one of the things that I really like about what you're doing as well, and you kind of hit the nail on the head throughout your explanation of it too, is really just about the time that you're saving for these moms or for these caregivers or whomever it might be in terms of the second shift, as you talked about in terms of hours, and over 2 hours. Over 120 minutes. That's a lot of time that they can get back. And, to me, I think what's most important, most impactful about what you're doing is you're freeing up time, and you're looking to free up time. In addition to that, of course, you're, providing jobs. But to me, everybody always talks about, what they wish they had. And usually everybody says, oh, I wish I had more time. And that's the one thing that we cannot control, but we can also do some things to kind of supplement that. And that's my favorite part about your solution on that front, is the fact that you're buying up more time for these people to spend with their families and do things they're passionate about, maybe some hobby or something like that, to really just enjoy life more. And that's really important. But one thing that you said that I'd like to ask a question about too is on that front is you mentioned making it easy and simple to ask for help. And that, history, I guess, has suggested that it hasn't been easy in the past, or maybe people were a little bit more reluctant to, or anything like that. So I guess, from your perspective as a working mom yourself and things of that nature, what do you think are some of the reasons why in the past that, moms or caregivers or whomever are a little reluctant to ask for help, and they feel like they need to kind of do it all?
I think, honestly, there are a few reasons. I think there's kind of the gender stereotypes that have existed for so long, and a little bit of that stigma around being, especially as a mom, the caregiver and the one that provides the nurturing and the caregiving and planning and, nurturing of the whole entire family. And, while there's something that's maybe special in that, that's also a big weight, I feel, on women's shoulders to try to do that all. And and often at a cost to themselves, right? Of like mental health and kind of just finding a way to do it all and feel good about it rather than exhausted at the end of the day or, pulled in too many directions. I think that's certainly one reason. I think another reason is historically it hasn't been maybe super easy to find a solution. It felt like you either needed to hire staff, which is not obviously a reality or accessible option for most people, or the options were super kind of impersonal and it didn't feel like, you would be better off asking for somebody else to do it rather than just finding a way to do it yourself or just not doing it at all. But again, that kind of comes full cycle and full circle with whether you do it all and feel exhausted or you leave something out because you just can't get to it, but you feel guilt that you didn't get to it. So it's sort of this shame, blame, a big cycle of energy spent on things that truly could be outsourced. And, we love the idea that it's this greater ecosystem of parents and caregivers asking for help and us making it easy for them to ask for help, but also, not only empowering them, but empowering our team and our assistants to be able to provide impact and relief for these families as well. So it really feels, like a win-win on both sides of the equation there. And I think, historically, it's just been something that people don't believe they can ask for help or know where to turn, like I said. And so really trying to find a way to position ourselves in a spot that feels like we're part of their community. So really building out that sense of community and ecosystem of just being that friend that you would ask for help if you didn't feel so guilty asking them for help. That's what we want to build out as the solution. So it feels like the right fit and that we're an extension of the families that we, assist and impact in a more personal way.
Yeah, and one of the big things that I think as well is something that is the time and how you can kind of value it, right? So I'm a founder myself, obviously, and I have my own business, and there are other people who are other founders, or they have jobs or whatever it might be, and they feel like they don't have enough time in the day. And I don't have a family, I don't have a serious significant other or anything of that nature as well. And I feel like, oh, there's not enough time in the day. And sometimes I'm like, oh, it would be great to have more time, and how could I open that up? It's a challenge as a business owner as well. How do you outsource things and free up time? And it's something that I feel like can be applied to families as well in that front too. So with your background and your experience, and then someone that's obviously been knee deep into the business of it and really trying to promote it, as someone who is a founder, who's a mom, who has a family and all this type of stuff, how do you kind of go about what were your big challenges, I guess, at the beginning that made you kind of go about and now to allow yourself to kind of free up more time? Because in my mind, I don't know how you do it, but it's baffling to me how you can free up that type of time and be a founder, be a mom. I mean, these 2-3 full-time jobs you're balancing.
For sure. And there are days that I'm certain that I don't do it well, but I think certainly one foot in front of the other, right? That's the baseline. You got to start there. And I think the reality is that what my pain point was a million things, but just not feeling present with my family or present at work was such a driver for me. And so now even on those days that are hard or I'm stretched and I just can't see a way to do it all, I have to kind of step back and appreciate that I'm doing it differently. I'm prioritizing with purpose now, where it still might be a crazy number of things to prioritize. It's with a kind of a different mission and a vision and why. And I'm still getting more time with my family than I did before, even if it means that I put my kids to bed and work until 2 a.m. At least I'm doing that at my home with my girls and like having the time and kind of making those distinctions of where I want to spend that time. I think the amazing irony also is that I certainly lean on TULA as a tool for myself and for my family, and my partner and I sit down and kind of talk about our lists at the end of the week. What went well. And then Sunday nights, instead of Sunday scaries, we plan around what we can do for the following week to kind of tackle it together. And often that includes sending requests to our own team. And I'm really grateful and fortunate to be able to do that and to lean on them and just kind of see TULA working in the real world the way it's supposed to work. So it's all a juggling act. It's all just kind of figuring out where the priorities lie first and going from there.
Right.
And
again, it's okay to
kind of
ask for help in that sense and try to get a better understanding that, if someone else can free up and do something, then great, you should be able to do that as well. And another and another thing kind of on that note that you touched on, number one, the Sunday scaries. I'm a big believer in making Sundays productive, and that makes your Monday 10 times easier. So I love how you and your partner sit down and kind of plan for that on that front as well. I want to ask a little bit in terms of the challenges and regards to the actual application itself, right? So what are some of the challenges that you've had in terms of finding well-vetted assistants and chefs that, are fully qualified to do their jobs and things of that nature as well, that you feel comfortable with bringing onto the platform so that you can, recommend these assistants with confidence to your users, clients, customers?
Right. That's the hugest challenge, I think, in any marketplace type of business, is just really trying to navigate and balance the supply and the demand side of what it is that you're doing. I feel incredibly fortunate on the supply side that our assistants are coming to us often through referrals and people who are already on our team recommending, friends and family that, hey, you would love to do this. And so that's a huge part and kind of component of our team, which is obviously, it's humbling that people would recommend doing this to their friends and family as well. But, and then we certainly post positions often and kind of try to stay ahead of that so that we're able to serve our clients and be proactive in that manner. And what's been really cool is seeing kind of the applicants not just apply because it's something to fill time or it has, a decent rate compared to other flexible type positions, but because these are people that love the idea of having an impact, of bringing some relief to somebody else to make their days easier. And so, I feel like we have at this point a pretty good gut and sense of people being aligned in our goals and our mission as well, and can kind of sense that quickly. And we really get incredible people that want to do this and get why we want to do it. We also take safety very seriously, obviously. So we have, extensive background checks and checking on references just to make sure, like, hey, would I want this person in my home with my family? If there's even a slight no, that they're just not a fit for us, even if they could be capable of doing some of the things that our clients request. So, I think it's just something that really is a balance of kind of the more scientific approach of background checks and all
Absolutely,
those
yeah.
measures.
Like you said, just getting those background checks, being scientific kind of about it, and really kind of getting it down to make sure that it's really quality there. So I think that's fantastic. And before we kind of dive into the solution and exactly what your app does and everything as well on that front too, I'd be curious just to kind of get your own opinion on kind of time in general, as someone who, like I said, is been knee deep into it before and all that type of stuff. I mean, in your own experience, do you kind of feel, time slipping away a little bit on that front? Because to me personally, I feel like it slips away all the time. Each day gets faster and faster, each year, etc. You hear people in your community with friends, family, whatever, talk about, oh man, I wish time. So just curious to get your own kind of opinion on it in terms of that. And if that maybe even played a factor in, the big creation of the app.
Absolutely. 100% it did. I had spent 20 years in the super corporate, big grind, big hours type of setting. And my girls were young, kind of when I reached like the biggest, busiest part of my career. And I was just not able to get to things at school. I was the first mom to drop them off and the last mom to pick them up, and just kind of like always sort of apologizing that it was 6:01 and not 6. And it just didn't feel good, and kind of realized I'm not going to get these little years back with them. And I know that kind of sense of time doesn't always have to be tied to kids and family. But for me, that's really what my driver was. That I was not getting to see them in the way that I wanted to, or spend the time that I wanted to. And so it wasn't really putting a value of how much I would pay somebody an hour or what I was making an hour to kind of balance out what would be fair. For me, it was kind of a priceless dollar per hour, if you kind of want to think of it that way, that I couldn't get that time back. So there's not an amount to pin on that I could kind of tag in the reason for building TULA was that you can do it scientifically and what's your dollar, per hour rate, or what would you be willing to pay. But the bigger driver for me was what you would pay to get time back. And I don't, no matter what demographic or socioeconomic bracket you're in, I think that number is pretty high. And it just felt like that was where we could become a part of a solution that made sense.
Well, I think that'll resonate with just about anybody listening out there on that front, in terms of time, getting it back and all that, and the family, dynamic of it as well, especially. So on that note, Megan, why don't we dive in and figure out about or talk about the solution that you have created that is going to enable everything that we just talked about and create more time for not just families and working parents or anything, but maybe people like myself even. And then obviously we're doing great stuff with, providing jobs for people as well. So let's get going into the application and just tell us a little bit about how TULA itself, the web app, kind of streamlines the vetting process and can place you with a qualified assistant.
Absolutely. So we do currently have a web app, and then we're working with our development team right now to roll out native apps. Hopefully by the end of this month. I would say
Common
to your
problem.
earlier question on challenges, it was maybe not having a realistic approach to timelines and technology. So still working on that. Common problem, I think, in the space. But so what it is and what we wanted it to be was basically that to-do list that people have in their planners or on their phone or the post-it note on the counter, that it was recreating that in a really simple app kind of format that you just share what it is that you need done and when you would like it done and hit send. So really the differentiator is not that it's some special kind of list that's different or a different format. It's that you get to hit send and somebody else takes care of it. And I think there's a tremendous amount of relief just in that feeling of hitting send, knowing it will get done and it actually being done is another kind of icing on the cake feeling. But just the idea that you can hit send and it's not on your plate, it's not on your partner's plate, it's not a point of contention about who's going to do it or it's slipping further down the list. So it's really truly as simple as putting in the same type of to-do kind of details that you would on your own list and then sending it to us. And then on the back end, we have those requests kind of get pushed out to our team, sort of like in an Uber model. I don't like to compare us to Uber because everybody I think does that. But in any event, we send those out to our team and then based on their schedule and kind of the qualifications and skills and preferences that they have in their kind of work day, then those requests are matched to the best assistant. And, in the beginning, it was really my co-founder and I were a bit of the hamsters on the wheel that were making sure that those Bumble connections made the most sense. And now it's becoming much more automated and our assistants are kind of tagging to certain clients. And it's kind of this cool ecosystem that's taken a bit of a life of its own where people match up, in a little bit more strategic way without us even being the connections there. So it's super easy. We try, a couple of steps and then our assistants and clients are chatting, within usually an hour of the request coming in and we can get most things done within 24 hours and sometimes sooner than that. But we also have people that just schedule out what their next month will look like. And we just kind of get to that, as they've scheduled it out, whatever works best for their needs. And we're really flexible. And that's kind of where we distinguish ourselves, we feel, from other marketplaces that have a bit of a personal
the flexibility part is obviously huge, especially because, right, they need to be flexible because they don't have a lot of time, blah, blah, blah. We can get into that detail on that front there. But Megan, I guess with that, what are all kind of the services that are encompassed that you can offer that your assistants can do and your chefs can do? And well, I guess chefs is kind of a singular one, but you know what I'm saying with the assistants and things of that nature. What are all the kind of services? Like what are some examples that you have from customers that they utilize your platform for?
Absolutely. So I would say we kind of have four main buckets. Our service menu is pretty diverse. We like to say we can do most anything. Certainly it has some legality thresholds. It's pretty important to us. And we don't do childcare. Those were kind of two places, well, obviously legal, but childcare was something that as moms, we didn't want to sort of take on that role of matchmaking. That's a pretty huge just a lot of weight comes with that. So that's something that we steer clear of. But other than that, kind of whatever falls into sort of that household management umbrella, second shift things that are happening that people are, you're not even aware that they're doing or spending so much time on necessarily, but that we can pick up for them. So whether that's, a couple of loads of laundry during the week, just making sure that organization is staying intact and people are able to sort of function in systems through their house. So on that note, we do a ton of organizing. We have some really great organizers on our staff that just love those types of projects and seeing the before and after. So that's probably one of our biggest requests. We also do a ton of errands, the things that you don't even think of, that you have 5 returns to do, or the donations that you've been driving around in your trunk for 6 months. We do a lot of pickups where we basically seem to be doing about 6 errands in one drop. And that, for me, just selfishly, that's something that I use a lot. And it's so helpful knowing I'm not going to spend, the 2 free hours I have in the evening or on the weekend running those errands. I can choose what I actually want to do at that time. On the chef side, we do meal planning and meal prep. And so we do the grocery shopping. Our chefs come in and prepare meals for the week, kind of based on family preferences. We have some families that love to cook. They just don't like planning. So we can put together menus for them and drop off their groceries for them as well. So that has a little flexibility as well. But that's something that we, kind of filled out our chef schedules pretty quickly because it's recurring. And once people use it, they usually keep using it. So we also do a lot of research, whether that's trip planning or people are new to town and can you recommend, the best doctors or services. We need a handyman. So, one of the things that we think is kind of cool and special about TULA is that we have this vast network and community of assistants and clients, and we kind of lean on each other for recommendations too. So we feel like if we're giving a referral recommendation, that gives a lot of confidence to the person asking for it, because they know kind of somebody in our circle has used this person and vetted them. So it's cool from that standpoint of feeling like we're going to make a great recommendation, but we also are really excited by that because we love supporting other female-owned businesses and small businesses within our community based on kind of them joining our community.
Well, that's a great mission. Also, you weren't kidding. Very, very flexible in all the options that you're able to provide. I mean, there's not an errand on there that I don't think I heard.
Very flexible. Yeah. Absolutely. We kind of think of it, there's a lot of those quick outsource, like pick up my groceries, one-off organization things that you can do with several different services. And we like to feel like we're
awesome. That's so great. That's so great on that front as well. And what type of feedback are you getting? Obviously I know you're in the early stages still, but with the customers that you have, and then with the assistants on their side as well, what type of feedback have you been getting kind of from them and whatnot? And what have you been able to take from that and apply it forward into the business?
For sure. I would say maybe I'll start kind of on the surprising side. On the assistant side has been probably the most kind of humbling, surprising, amazing energy, and that we have so many assistants who are also moms, and they are so excited to be a part of our team because it's something that they can do between drop off and pick up, but they feel like they're having a lot of purpose in helping somebody else during the day. They understand the juggling and the multitasking that these families are experiencing as well. So they're just such a great fit for our clients, but also our assistants feel so much, I guess kind of the bucket filling in that equation. And so the feedback that I've gotten from our team has definitely made me tear up on more than one occasion. And I just feel really proud that we're kind of building both the full community on both sides, and that people are really loving what they do, with us. So that has been incredible and definitely a driver in some of those, what are we doing moments. Hearing that it's special and means something on both sides has been really, really rewarding. On the client side, we have heard everything from, oh my gosh, I have my wife back, or from, women, I feel like I have a wife. This is very nice. And just, the way that our team kind of focuses on serving the clients and supporting them in a way that doesn't make anybody feel like bad for asking for help, and that it really just takes a weight off. That we've had just so much great feedback, and most importantly, that is turning into referrals. And for a bootstrap company, that's really important to us on a marketing budget side. So for us, the referrals,
with the referrals and things of that nature as well. Especially with a service that is very kind of impactful in that time where you are kind of making a difference in families' lives specifically, or individuals as well. I suppose definitely too. On that front, and then based on the feedback that you're kind of getting there, when you're hearing these stories and you're getting this kind of stuff, and you're hearing kind of that freedom kind of come back out of it as well, that obviously takes you far into your pivoting and stuff like that and the referrals. But how much of that focus is on that customer experience? How much of your focus from a business perspective is ensuring that the onboarding is good, the follow-up is good? How much attention do you pay to that?
I mean, that's everything for us because, losing a client not only means we didn't do something well, it means we didn't make somebody's life easier and that we didn't, achieve the goals that we set out for, not only for them, but for ourselves. So we take that super, super seriously. And that's, really the lens that we view everything through, whether it's on the client or assistant side, but obviously, mostly on the client side, just because they're the ones investing in us on that kind of monthly subscription basis. So we take that, very seriously. And whenever there have been issues, which of course, it's life, things will come up. We're grateful for the feedback because it means that we can do it better in the future and that, we're more informed on what, a specific need might have looked like or where we missed the mark. And so we take feedback very seriously, very graciously and humbly as well. And we're definitely here for it. But, the feedback that we've gotten is probably more often like, where has this been? And, how much more can you guys tolerate of us? Which that's a great question to have.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
No doubt about it.
With
that as well, when you have the application itself and your customers are using it and everything, we talked a little bit about just kind of what you have and how it works in terms of like a technical perspective from the front and back end as well. But what are all of the features that the client can kind of see when they're going through the application? And if you can, maybe tease a little bit about what you might be planning in the future as well.
Absolutely. So right now, like I said, we want to keep it like very simple so that it doesn't feel like effort to ask for help. I think that would be that's the biggest kind of toe stub that we could have in trying to make this scalable and impactful at the same time is to make it hard to ask for help. So it's super simple on the request side, and then they can manage and kind of see where their hours are on a monthly basis on their dashboard. They can also see when their request turns to in progress and then when it moves to complete. And so it's really kind of just keeping it as simple but as much information as possible so they know what they've done and what else they can do based on the hours that remain in their bank. And, I guess quickly touching on that point, we don't charge differently for the different types of requests. We keep it very simple. So they have basically their bank of hours for the month and whatever the actual hours are that it takes to complete those requests, whether it's a chef or running errands. It just comes out very simply and straightforward as well. So there's no, guessing about how much.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
And they can see from us what the total time was right on their dashboard right away as soon as it's complete. And in the future, right now we have kind of a more manual chat feature, which is working just fine. But in the future, it'll be really exciting because our clients will be able to have in-app chat features for their requests. So they can see within a specific request, what the conversation has been rather than having, multiple TULA assistants just in their phone that they're kind of trying to remember who did what and if they need a follow-up. So really excited about that. We think that will create a lot of efficiencies on both sides for the client and the assistant just to catch up right away and, schedule going forward and also finalize details that would be helpful to the assistant as well. So that's probably what we're most excited about on the client side. And then we're launching an assistant dashboard as well. So that's going to be super helpful on the automation side of the assistants.
Absolutely. And I love the streamline app approach where you're going to be able to have that chat and you can just directly do it within the app. Well, keep them on the platform too. Like that's going to be really, really big on that front. You talked a little bit about kind of the referral method for, what you're doing on the customer side of things and the clients as well. You also mentioned that you've been able to source so many kind of assistants on that front as well. Has that kind of been something similar too, where one assistant or one chef might say, oh, hey, you should check out this platform. It's been really great for me as a way to get jobs. Has that been kind of like a similar thing on the flip side of that?
Yeah, absolutely. we definitely get kind of both sides referring for the same thing, or for the same reason. And we've also had assistants who then are referring, talking to their friends about what they're doing. And then either their friend kind of goes down the path of, oh, I'd love to do that as well, or, oh, I need that. And so it's just having more people on both sides out in the world talking about TULA and sort of what their experience is.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic on that front as well, Megan. And I want to kind of dive now into some ways that people can get involved and people can kind of support the platform. How do they sign up? How do they do all these things and really kind of get involved and move forward with this? I know that you mentioned that sounds like it's going native soon, so they can get it on their phones here, hopefully by the end of the month or in July as well. So lots of exciting things kind of going forward on that. So I guess on that front, just to kick things off before we really get into, in terms of what people can use and how they can use it, what are your goals and hopes for TULA? What are your future plans for this? Obviously, you started it, I'm sure, with some the solution to solve a problem in mind, but now I'm sure a daily basis, you probably got ideas running through your head about what you can do with it. So what are your hopes and goals with TULA moving forward into the future?
Yeah, I mean, I hope as I say this that it is as normal as I believe it to be, but I feel like as a new founder, there's always so many sparkly things and ideas and things that you want to chase and that that you can do well. And so really at this point, it's sort of having the restraint to make sure that we're doing what we set out to do very well so that we can then chase the sparkly things and do well when we get there. But, primarily our focus is on continuing to grow out our client base. We're in Denver, Boulder, and Austin, Texas. So building out clients there. And then we serve clients virtually, anywhere. And so we love that kind of piece of our model as well. So, really just focusing on building out clients, period, but specifically our in-person requests in the 3 markets that I mentioned. We love that, not just because, we're growing a business here, but that also gives us so much information about how we can do this in other markets, which is, the longer term goal. This demographic of people who need help, whether it's moms or whether it's professionals and single people that are just overwhelmed with life, translates into any market, really. We're not at a place where people need less help, and I don't think we'll be headed in that direction anytime soon. So we want to be sure that as we enter new markets, that we kind of have as much information as possible about what people might use TULA for. We've learned a lot over this last 18 months, but there's obviously always more to learn, and we're here for that as well. But, ideally, we would like to be exiting the next couple of years with another 8 to 10 markets. And then beyond that, we have about 32 markets top of mind that we would also like to enter as well. So, really it's a growth mindset, but balancing that with some intentionality and thoughtfulness around how to do it well so that we don't get too big too fast and miss the mark on what we're really focused on, like you said earlier, which is the customer experience.
Yeah, I want to really kind of touch on that point you made about midway through that answer as well, and the differentiator that you all have. I mean, obviously there's loads of virtual assistants in the world today. There are so many of that. And what I think makes yours really cool is it still just kind of sparks that local economy, like you said, too. Are you partnering with local businesses, or you're empowering woman-owned companies or minority-owned companies or small businesses in general? That's also a really important kind of avenue that I feel like kind of gets lost a little bit sometimes as we grow into this digital world further and further. So I think that's great, but I do want you to be able to expand a little bit as well and talk about some of those virtual services that you do offer in order to kind of help people in other markets that may not be in Austin or Boulder or Denver.
Sure. So those are, really a lot of just research based, obviously, related to travel and planning. Finding, like I said, vendors or doctors, providers in a community, within a market. I think what's really important there is that we do that well from within the team that we have right now. But as we kind of build out more need in different markets, we would love to have people, in those markets that are truly the experts in their community, because that to me is what you were speaking to, kind of that differentiator between somebody who can just Google and find, 10 things and pass those along, because anybody can do that. And we don't want our results going to our client in a way that they feel like I could have just Googled that myself. So, we really take the time to kind of vet and research what our answers are, why we think that they're, the best answers truly and how they can be actionable. So we like to think we take it, several steps down the line so that it actually has an impact on saving time and narrows the focus and resource needs for our clients as well. So that's something that I think we continue to grow in from a virtual perspective. And I'm excited to get to the point where we have
very good. I love that. Love that so much. On that front too, let's get into it as well. What can people do right now? They're listening to this podcast. They go, wow, this sounds like a great service. I would like to use it too. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to go figure it out. Can you just do a quick breakdown, step-by-step process on how people can get signed up and get moving into the platform?
Sure, absolutely. So right now, the easiest way is just to go to TULA Balanced with the D at the end, balanced.com. And you can kind of click through the website, see what we're all about, what we're doing. And then under the How It Works tab, you can click down and go to Join Now and create your account. And right now, you would select which market you're in, whether that's Denver, Boulder, or Austin, or if you would like virtual services. So that kind of helps us funnel people to the right team and the right assistance as well. And yeah, you can just get started. We offer 2 ways to use TULA services. So we are subscription-based primarily, and you can purchase 4, 8, or 12 hours per month. And there's a little price break, the more hours that you purchase. So we're anywhere from $40 to $50 an hour in the subscription range. And then also for people who just, hey, I just have a big project coming up, or I just want to have a huge bank of hours that I don't have to think about the renewal and those sorts of things. We do offer a la carte hours, and those are $60 an hour. As well. So you can kind of try it again with the flexibility idea that you can kind of try it out and see which model might work best for you or make sense, for your needs. And we know that those change as well. So we make it very easy to either ramp up for more hours or, step down if you're traveling, which we see that a lot in the summer, of course, and that makes sense. So we just try to make it really easy for you to decide what it is that you need or how much that you need. I would say the best thing or the most common thing that we see is hours going up quickly. So, where we thought that 4, 6, or 8 hours was our previous kind of tiered package offering, where we thought that made great sense, we kind of quickly realized that high end was
the challenge of time. Time is undefeated.
A learning that
on
we
everything.
Picked up on along the way and made some adjustments.
No, exactly, right? So it's like, okay, I need more time. I need more hours. Give me the bank. Where's it at? All right, credit card, boom. Awesome. Yeah, exactly. And Megan, too, outside of that, do you have social media channels or anything like that people can kind of follow on and support through and help that engagement, that algorithm, and get that brand awareness up going?
Yeah. Gosh, that's something that I'm learning a whole lot about. And still, I'm pretty certain it doesn't make the most sense to me on a daily basis. But we are on Instagram, and that is TULA Balanced as well. So you can follow along there. We certainly love to have some new followers that join us and engage and, ask us lots of questions. We're here for any of that. And then we have Facebook as well. So yeah, also TULA Balanced on Facebook. So either place, and you might see some.
Oh yeah, it's hard. It's not easy. Trust me, I have my own battles with it as well. And maybe that's undefeated too. I don't know. Awesome. Yeah. Megan, outside of that, is there anything else that you'd like to promote or anything else that you'd like to talk about and share on this podcast episode?
I think kind of in a more just general way, I really want to encourage people to think of the idea of asking for help as a more empowering act, and feeling like it's a sign of actually making a decision to support yourself, and rather than feeling shame and guilt. Like, that's just something I feel really strongly about, that whole shift of narrative and shift of behavior. And that, it's surprising that whether it's TULA, whether it's somebody else, people really do love to help others out, and it's okay to be in that space that you might need a little extra help or a little extra time. We all find ourselves there, and there's nothing wrong with that. So life is busy. That's why we've created this. We're also really excited that, as I speak about growth and what we're doing from a market kind of evaluation standpoint, we have a couple of people that we'd love to add to our team that are just super passionate about what we're doing as well, and really aligned. And So we're actually fundraising right now. So that's kind of as a first-time founder and a first-time fundraiser, a whole new world. I thought I was nervous about being on this podcast, but I will tell you, fundraising and having those conversations is probably much harder than this. But we're excited about it. I love sharing our story. I think there's so much, energy and momentum around this, and I'm just really excited to bring it to as many people as we possibly can. So certainly, obviously, up for introductions, whether it's to other founders with a similar story or,
hey, nothing hurts in a conversation, right? We're just boom. You never know what one conversation can change everything. You never know. So awesome. Exactly. And again, it's all about that time. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to want to have some of that time back and to empower others who have that time and who want to be compensated for it as well. I mean, that's also beneficial on that side as well. And, I just think that it's something that kind of gets overlooked. And the reason I was so intrigued by this is because I felt that way as well. I mean, I never really understood the point of, having someone come in and like clean for you or something. I was like, why don't you just do it yourself? I don't understand. And then I started becoming an adult, and I had job responsibilities and all that type of stuff. And I was like, oh, I see. It's because you're busy all the time and you need to open up more time. And now I'm a huge proponent of it. I just think that any time that you can buy and then also support someone else, and from a monetary perspective as well, I think is great going forward. So that's why I like what you're doing and the solution you're providing, especially when you're talking about kind of families for the most part too. So they're the ones that need it the most. The kids don't understand, right? They just want to, why aren't you hanging out? Why aren't you here? I don't care that you got work. Yeah.
The number of hey moms you get when you're sitting at a desk working remotely is pretty astounding. So it's just being able to focus, whether it's with them or with work, just finding that balance is so important. And we're super proud of creating this ecosystem that's both, supply and demand.
Fantastic, Megan. Well, I look forward to continuing to follow your journey with TULA and perhaps enlisting its services for myself one day if you make it out to the Seattle market or maybe on a virtual perspective. But I thank you so much for your time and coming on the podcast to have a conversation about what you're doing, to talk about freeing up time, and to talk about utilizing this platform that is all about simplicity that you talk about, and really streamlined approach to get people without having to worry too much about taking up more time to learn something. They can just simply use your platform, get that assistant, and then free up the time, have a great solution, help local economy, all really good some stuff there. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Megan. Absolutely. Happy to do so. That is Megan Trask. She is the founder of TULA, joining us on this edition of the Talkin Solutions Podcast. And that is going to wrap up this episode. As always, those links will be available throughout the week on our platform. And I encourage you to go check out our website as well for more information on TULA moving forward on that front. And as always, if you enjoyed the episode, would appreciate a review, listen, and recommendation to a friend. And I look forward to chatting with you on the next episode of the Talkin Solutions Podcast. And until then, I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Talkin Solutions with the Chesh podcast. Tune in every Wednesday for a new episode, and you can find out more about our featured guests and their solutions on our Talkin Solutions Podcast Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channels, as we focus on highlighting individuals providing solutions to social problems and bringing optimism to the world.